Welcome back to day 15 of the 30-day challenge. Today, we're going to be building this recipe page using an API. If you're new here, hi, my name is Zoe. I'm a software engineer and former university professor that loves teaching folks how to code. If you're interested in learning how to code or starting a career in front-end engineering, check out that first link in the description below for more information about our bootcamp. But without further ado, let's hop into day 15. So yeah, we're going to be building out this recipe page, and I want to show you how to do it using Next.js's API capability, the routing capability, so that you can actually build out projects like this or pages like this if you don't necessarily have an API to fetch from. So you can build things and show, potential employers how you can fetch from an API without needing to sort of host an API separately. Because again, we're trying to focus on the front end side of things. So the page is pretty simple. We're not going to do anything crazy with the design. It's really more to showcase the ability to create this API. So yeah, but this is the design, pretty straightforward. It's going to be available on Frontend Mentor again as well if you want to access it there. So I'm going to start with the code. I've gone ahead and brought in the images or the individual image from the starter kit from Frontend Mentor, and then I've also gone ahead and created a data file, which is going to be our data.json sort of thing that we're going to be using to mock our data from the API. So that's all there. And yeah, this was all just from information that I got from the initial starter information that they gave us. So we have our app up and running here. I'm going to go ahead and start with some basic styles. So let's grab this background color and go ahead and set that. And we'll just set that to be, body and our HTML color. Background color. Okay, and we'll clear out these, save that, and yeah, we have our main page here. So on this main page, we want to have this recipe section, and basically, I think we can do pretty much all of it in the main page. Yeah, it's going to be quick, so let's just do it in one component, and then you can see kind of the pros and cons of doing that. So we have our outside box there. Then I'm going to create an inner box, and that's going to be where our recipe lives. So we'll say box, and this is going to have the background color of white. Color of white. And I'm going to set this to be a flex box. We'll say justify content center and align items to the center. And then for this, I'm just going to add some margin top, just a little bit of space there, and we'll say like 5 around, just so we have a little bit of padding there. Speaking of padding, let's add in some padding for the elements inside. Zoom in a little bit there. All right, 40 pixels. So we'll say padding, 40 pixels, and yeah. Looks pretty good. So now we want to go ahead and create this API, and again, it's just a box right now, there's nothing there. We want to go ahead and create this API route and use that for our data. So if you go over to the Next.js website, we're using the app router. You can also do this in the pages router. It's just a little bit different, but the app router is sort of like the latest and greatest. And there's a special sort of way that they do their files where basically you can create like a folder called API and create a route file, and using that route file, you can actually basically showcase your data. So I'm going to follow this structure, this really simple route structure. But yeah, this is all available on the Next.js website if you want to sort of read into the documentation. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call it API. This is within my app folder, which is important. Then I'm going to create a new file called route.ts. Again, important that we use this name. Then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this and we'll go over what it's going to do. So it's going to export a get function, and it's going to return a response and that response to JSON. So in this case, it's just saying a message, hello world, and that's the response. In our case, what we're actually going to do is we're going to import data from our data file that we created earlier, and I'm going to just put data here. So basically what I want you to do is when I go to the /API route, I want to get the data from that response. Now, the way to test to make sure this is working is we actually need to perform a fetch request. So on the home page, I should say, I'm going to turn it into a client component to start with. So I'm going to say use client. And then I'm going to say in a use effect, I want to go ahead and fetch at /API. That's it. Because it's automatically going to grab us that route. And when I fetch at /API, I'm going to say then response and set response to JSON. And then honestly, I don't know if we can do this. This is just convention, but then we'll say data. And then we're going to do something with that data. Let's just start by console logging it to see if we're getting what we are expecting to get, right? So we've created the route at API, app/API route.ts, right? And it's taken our data that we've created, our whole image, all that information, and it's taking it and it's turning it into JSON, JSONifying it, and it's returning it as our response. We're then using a use effect on our main page, our main home page, and you can do this on any page. We could have created a component and put it separately. We are using a use effect. We're going to fetch at that route /API, and then we're going to take that response and then again JSONify. We probably don't need to actually do that step. And then we're going to right now just console log the data to make sure we've done things correctly. So if we've done it correctly, when we go back to our page and we inspect the page and we go to the console and we refresh just to make sure that all is good, we're seeing exactly what we expect to see. And we're seeing this is all the information from our data.json. So the route itself is set up and it's good and it's working. So now let's go ahead and just use this and set up our styles a little bit and finish on that piece of the project. So if you take a look, we don't need to go to the route to see it because we have the data, but if it was a regular API, you would probably have to go and either read the documentation on the API or, figure out the structure of the data. But since we have it here, we can just refer to this file. So we have our image, our title, description, prep time, etc., etc., etc. So just basically following along with the style of the design, we're just going to implement all of these pieces like you would with any sort of normal project. So first thing, we'll drop in the image. So we'll say image. Next image, the source. Oh, and also very important, we need to do something with the data, not just console log it. So let's say, we'll say const recipe. Oops, recipe. We'll say set recipe. Recipe. And we'll say use state. And we'll say recipe is just an empty any object with untyped at the moment. And then instead of console.logging the data, we want to set recipe to be data. And so that's how we're going to grab our data. And so then now for our source, we'll say recipe dot oh, and you know what? Because I haven't put in. All right, I should just. I'm going to put in sort of a starting type here, just so that we don't need to. It'll give us that like automatic completion, which is quite nice. And we'll also get a few less errors going down the road. So I'm just initializing an initial. I'm initializing an initial state. Good. And we'll get rid of that. We don't need that. We don't need that. Okay, we'll see recipe.image. And then it gives us the completion because we know that it works, that it exists. Alt is going to be food image. And then the size, let's do 300 height by 600 width. Width is going to be 600, and that'll be that image. All right, cool. So far, so good. And what's it complaining about? Okay, awesome, cool. We got our image there. Nice. I'll add a little bit of that border radius style to it. We'll say border radius 1 rem. And I didn't even add it to that other piece, so we can add it there as well. That's to that outer box that we have. We'll say border radius 1 rem. Perfect, looking good. So that's good. The next thing we need to do is have our title, and we're just gonna plug and play and put these in place. So let's say typography. We'll say recipe dot title. And you see, as we've initialized a state that we've given an initial state, it's now giving us our completion, which is nice. Recipe.title, recipe.description. What else do we need? The preparation time. So this is actually going to be kind of its own little box. So we'll say recipe dot. We'll add in another typography element first off. We'll say preparation time. And that'll be recipe dot total prep time. Recipe dot prep time. And recipe dot cooking time. And I remember these because I just made the object. Then we'll have another section that is ingredients. And we'll say recipe. Oh yeah, and so then now what we want to do is we want to map. So we're gonna take our recipe dot ingredients, and for each ingredient we want to go through and return a typography element with that ingredient. And recipe.map, not recipe, recipe.ingredients. Ingredients. That's what we want to do. And the key will be the ingredient. Cool. So for that, that's how we'll get our ingredients. And then we'll need to do the same thing with our instructions. Actually, looks the style is pretty similar. So let me do a little bit of styling here. So this is going to be brown. And it's going to be 28 pixels. And maybe font weight of, let's say, 600. Cool. And yeah, it looks pretty good. All right, so we'll copy this because we're going to do something pretty similar, except it's going to be, what is it, instructions? Yeah, instructions. We're going to change this to instruction. I mean, semantically, we don't have to change this word ingredient, but I'm going to change it because otherwise I'm going to be confused later. But like, it would do the same thing if it was any word. So we'll have those instructions there. And then nutrition. I'm going to copy a piece of it. I do on the title. But then I know this is not something that was part of the API. That's like just part of the web page. So we're gonna drop that in there. And then this will be the last piece here. So then we have to show, we want to map through, do we want to map through? Or we could just say typography. We could go ahead and create another element. Say recipe dot nutrition dot calories. Yeah, let's go ahead and create a really quick element. So I'm just going to create another folder components. I could have done it in the same file as well. I'm going to say nutrition, yeah, just nutrition. And it's just going to be an individual line. So we'll import the box, material UI. And again, this is all for design. This is like we've finished the API piece, so we're good on that sense. But what this is going to do is going to return a typography element, maybe 2. And it's going to take in props. It's going to take in the what is it? Category, I guess, of nutrition. Category. Oops, string. And then it'll be the value. That's not a great name, but string as well. We'll take in category and value, and we'll use props. And we're just going to go ahead and display the category. So, whoops, category. And the category. And then it's going to go ahead and display the value. The values are bolded in that brown color. Cool. And then there's going to be a horizontal rule on the bottom of each. And that's probably going to be some like margin potentially. Yeah, I won't go with that. So then we're gonna just map through. So this is nutrition. Within this, we're gonna say recipe dot. I feel like I should have updated the data. So maybe because we created the data, we can sort of modify it. But what is the best way to do this? I think I'm overcomplicating this. I think what I'll do, I'll just say nutrition, and I'll say category equals calories, and then the value equals recipe dot nutrition dot calories, and that's what we're gonna do. I'll just type in that manually. Because otherwise I think it was going to get very complicated, unnecessarily complicated. Carbs, protein, fat. Cool. And that should be that. Let's see how it's looking so far. All right, not too bad, not too bad. I think what I want to do is probably set a max width to the page, just so it doesn't get too wide. So we'll say max width, 50 view width. Okay, and it's causing it to wrap. And then, yeah, we can touch it up a little bit more. Just work on the designs a little bit. Let's say, font size. You know, just update a couple of these little pieces. do this background color. Like there's so much you can do with the styling here. Like you can do it to the fullest. I think we'll do a little bit of it, but I don't want to have you guys spend time here watching something we've done a million times. But again, if you're new, then maybe this would be the first time. Font weight. Oh yeah, I should say. Okay. Not bad. Oops. Do one RAM for that. And we'll kind of copy this style for the next boxes. I think we could have just like created like a singular style just to save ourselves some time, but didn't do that. All right, cool. And you know, we're not gonna like go over and spend a whole bunch of time doing this, but in terms of what we did today, right? We created an API route using Next.js's app router. So you can do this and you can basically serve up any data you want if you need to basically show an employer or potential employer that you actually know how to fetch from an API. We fetch from it in our main component here in our app, and then we use that data to populate our recipe page. So if you like this video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. And if you want to see the rest of the videos in this challenge, I'll link that playlist up here so you can follow along. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.